Alright, summer blog post of the day is about the TV shows that I have either caught up or gotten to revisit over my summer. Number 1 is Chuck. Chuck is a lovable and adorable geek who gets given what's called the intersect, which basically turns him into a super spy, except that he is not. It lasted 5 seasons, beautiful characters and character development throughout the time, and it was given to me, or I guess shown to me, many years ago by a roommate at the time. I have recently started rewatching it on Netflix in the background when I'm working on different things, and it is a great show to watch if you're looking for something a little bit light and fun and funny, but that has a very dramatic action twist to it. Number 2, White Collar. Started watching this very soon after school was done for the year and fell in love. So much so that I have gotten other people hooked on it since because it is that good. It is the story of Neil Caffrey and his FBI agent handler, Peter Burke. And in the show, Neil is a convicted bond forger, but he's also been accused of art forgery and a number of other white-collar crimes. The show follows Neil's path as he and Peter take down a bunch of other white-collar criminals. Neil trades his expertise and time to the FBI, and in return he gets an anklet and gets to live in the regular world instead of being locked in prison. It has great episode-by-episode stories, but also has a great overall series and season arcs. And the secondary characters like Peter's wife Elizabeth and Neil's friend Mozzie, who just make the show. Couldn't have it without them. They're great. Number 3, Once Upon a Time. One of my favorite shows, mostly because it's like my imagination got mixed up and put on screen, because you get fairy tales mixed with other fairy tales, and you get to flesh out characters that have been very two-dimensional up until this point. See my last video of Land of Stories for a little bit more about my crazy fairy tale antics. Once Upon a Time, beginning of the year for this season, kind of threw me off a little bit with the whole Frozen storyline, but I liked how they kind of incorporated the real Snow Queen into it, and really got back down to business for the second half of the season and left on a huge cliffhanger that I'm super interested to see how they go about solving this next major problem in the season to come. Quick note on that, being the Disney fanatic that I am, villains have always been villains, good guys have always been good guys, but the woman who plays the character of the evil queen in Once Upon a Time is easily one of my favorites. Number 4, cannot do binge watching TV shows without throwing a couple episodes of Doctor Who in there. Doctor Who is, if you've not seen it, it's got a huge following, and it has been around for about 50 years. It's a British television show with the idea that there is this alien called the Doctor, and he has 2 hearts because one would not be enough. And basically he flies around all of time and space with a always human, not always, never mind, hold that, not always, but usually with a human companion. And they save other species, other worlds. They have episodes that are, part of our history books, and they kind of twist them a little bit. They take us to the ends of the earth and they show us what that's like. So it can be very goofy and science fiction-y, but at the end of the day, there's usually a couple moments that are really super heartfelt or have your heart pounding because you're so worried about the characters. One episode in particular, for those of you who have seen Doctor Who, The Angels Take Manhattan. I almost had to stop watching Doctor Who after that because I was so distraught after that episode. It brought me to tears. What number am I on? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Castle. Castle is my current long-standing favorite TV show that is still creating new episodes. It's a great story about an mystery author, who teams up with a homicide detective, and they basically become a crime-fighting team. with the help of other great secondary characters that the show would be lost without. I'm a little bit nervous because last I heard, Stana Kayak, who plays Kate Beckett, had not signed a contract for the upcoming season. I haven't heard anything since, so I'm really interested to see what happens if she does not come back. It's a great show that's based on a lot of heart. I've always had a lot of connections that I see between Castle and his daughter that I have with my dad in the earlier seasons. So much that they were a really big comfort to me when I first moved away from home. So there's a lot of heart, there's a lot of action, and it's one of those TV shows where you're like, okay, these two main characters just need to be together. And eventually they do get together. And I find with a lot of other TV series like that, the story and the show loses something once the characters finally get together. But if anything, I feel like Castle has, increased its effectiveness. They really show the different dynamics and how things have changed for our main characters now that they're together, but they also continue to incorporate the other characters in order to create a constant dynamic environment. And last but not least, a show that I can't go very long without watching an episode of is West Wing, which, despite the fact that I never watched it while it was being made on TV, I have watched every single episode with my parents. I own the whole series, and it is just one of the best written, best casted, and most dynamic shows I have ever watched in my life. I was not a huge political person. Still, I pay attention because, I'm old enough now that it's kind of an important thing in my life. But we're talking, politics in the United States, which is very different from Canada. But the show drew me in, and it's more than just the politics. It's about the relationships between the characters, and you completely fall in love with the characters and how much they care for one another. Like I said, brilliantly written. Very interesting that the writer of West Wing works with this director quite often, because the writer, Aaron Sorkin, has a very particular style. His characters walk and talk a lot, so much so that they actually made a full-scale soundstage of the West Wing as they use it in the show, so that the characters could be walking around and go from one room to another and always be filmed, and they don't have to worry about their sight lines and that sort of thing. So not only is it a very intriguing show story-wise and character-wise, but the actual behind-the-scenes dynamics is also really interesting. So I'm gonna go do that.